everybody, welcome back. If it is all right with you, I'm just gonna jump right into it. We talked about how Justin Bieber was gonna have his own Justin Bieber-inspired donut holes at Tim Hortons, the Canadian donut shop. I was told by many of our Canadian viewers that in Canada, they are not called donut holes, they are called Timbits. Interesting, Timbit has another meaning. It is a tidbit not interesting enough to share. Aisling Bea, wonderful actress, was here. And she talked about how Dustin the Turkey, a turkey puppet, actually was the entry for Ireland in the Eurovision Song Contest in 2008. I said, how did he do? Did he win? She said, no, he was eliminated. And I joked, well, I'm sure he was the top finishing turkey. It was not. Turkey was. We had a joke in yesterday's monologue about a manger. We referred to a manger as if it was a building. A manger is not a building. It is a trough where they feed animals. And interesting, I did some research. They came up with the word manger because trough didn't sound good in carols. Like when it was like away in a trough, like immediately people were like, Talked about us feeling bad. And when I feel bad, my friend Andy Samberg has a homeopathic cure, and I called him up and he did his Robert Smith impression. A lot of people said that's not, what you described is not homeopathic medicine. The way homeopathic medicine works is it doesn't. I guess you need to dilute the thing that's making you sick. You take a very small dose of that to supposedly make you better. I will say, I love him. Andy's Robert Smith impression was pretty diluted. I've tried to get him, I hate to say it, I've tried to get him to go to impression camp. He won't go. And it only works if he wants to go. Talked about, again, I think this is week 4 of talking about Shoemaker and the Elves. And at first I was told, I referred to it as a fable. Shoemaker and the Elves is the story about the elves who are paid to write jokes here. When they do a bad job, Shoemaker throws them out the window. And I called it a fable, and people said, no, a fable needs a moral. And I said, the moral is don't mess with Mike Shoemaker. And then another person said, oh, fables have to have animals, and elves aren't animals. But I do realize where I made my mistake, which is when Shoemaker squeezes him out the window, he does say, enjoy your flight, you animal! You know, sometimes history creeps its way into corrections, and we learned a lot about defenestration, which is the act of throwing somebody out a window. And it happens a lot in Prague. The most famous ones happen in Prague. If you look up defenestrations, it's going to take you right to the defenestrations of Prague. There are 3 main defenestrations in Prague: 1419, 1483, 1618. Big gap between the last 2. They went from 1483 to 1618 without a defenestration. People probably, at that point, probably thought they were safe. That the crime wave of defenestration was over. And next thing you know, go to the tower of your castle, just chucked out, just DJ Jazzy Jeffed out the window. But this is a fascinating thing. The third of the defenestrations is known as the second defenestration of Prague. Because I guess the second one, the one that happened in 1483, is not considered a significant defenestration. Must have been a real blow to the families who got chucked out the window for the second defenestration. When the Prague cops showed up to the house, told him, you know, your loved one was tossed out a window. And they said, well, at least he'll always be remembered as being a victim of the second defenestration of Prague. And the cops are like, we might save the name. I also said it started the 30-year war. It's the 30 Years' War. The 30-year war, 8.5 months. We mentioned seagulls, and we showed a photo of this. And a couple people said, that is not a seagull, that is a silver gull. And obviously, I was pretty upset that graphics would do me like that. Feels like it'd be pretty easy to find a photo of a seagull instead of a very rare silver gull from Australia. And you know what you call me when I think graphics is going to give me the right bird? Gullible. Bays. Why'd you tell me that would work? We talked about the Attenborough brothers. I thought they were the same. Richard and David. David, the naturalist. Richard, I referred to Richard, the actor. He's in Jurassic Park. A lot of people said I overlooked his directing career, and I apologize to Richard Attenborough. Gandhi, Chaplin, Chorus Line. That one's a bridge too far. Did you get it? I really hope you get it. I said that, I basically said there was some tension between the brothers because, you know, David did all these documentaries and does all these documentaries about the modern natural world. And then, you know, Richard got this big part in Jurassic Park and wouldn't let David, you know, help with it because it's about dinosaurs. But then people said, yeah, but actually David has done, you know, multiple documentaries about dinosaurs as well. So it was probably even more awkward, you know, when Richard was like, "Oi, David, doing a new Spielberg." "Yeah, I got a part in the new Spielberg, don't I, David? It's about dinosaurs." And David was like, "Oh, Dickie, I know a fair bit about dinosaurs. You want to put in a good word for me? Would love to work on the new Spielberg." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, David. It's a blockbuster, isn't it?" "Yeah. It's a blockbuster, and Steve thinks your documentaries are a bit slow." Then their brother John came in. He's like, "Oi!" Now, here's the thing for the rest of this bit. For the rest of this bit, you need to know a key fact. There were 3 Attenborough brothers. The ones we've been talking about, Richard, David, knighted. John, not knighted. "Oi! Dickie, David, supper's ready." "Oi, what'd you call us?" "I think there's a word missing in front of our name, John." "Am I really going to have to do this?" "That's right, you are." "Sir Dickie, Sir David, dinner's ready." I guess people said, you know, actually, and again, I know that's not how they talk. They went to a boys' school in Leicester, and someone said we should actually have a Leicester accent, but I would hate to see Seth Meyers try a Leicester accent, because I guess it's a hard, in their head, they perceive it as a hard accent. I do a very good Leicester accent. Welcome to NBC Nightly News. Whoever's from Leicester is going to love that one. I confused windmills and wind turbines. A lot of you were angry about that. If I was building windmills or wind turbines, I would build it next to a jackal's house because you guys blow so hard. All right. Someone sent a comment. And, you know, again, we've established that who you are, jackals, but I want to finish with this comment. A few years ago, I went to an audience with David Attenborough in Australia, and the audience were able to put in questions. My friend's question was picked, and he asked, if you could be in Jurassic Park, what would you want to see first? And he said, the first thing would be to go see my brother Richard. This was after Richard had passed away, just a lovely, lovely, wonderful man. Every time I think the only way jackals can make me feel is frustrated, you write something beautiful like that. Thank you for sharing it. This has been Corrections. See me next week.